Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. The inquest into the death of Miles Sanderson is underway in Saskatoon. Sanderson killed 11 people and injured another 17 on the James Smith Cree Nation in September 2022. The RCMP arrested him 3 days later, but he died in their custody near Rosthern. The inquest is examining how he died and will recommend ways to prevent similar deaths from happening again. RCMP Superintendent David Pugh gave an overview of Sanderson's arrest yesterday. Today, Saskatoon Police Sergeant Ken Kane took the stand. He said that the Saskatoon Police Service was asked to investigate Sanderson's death. Kane filed a report that said the RCMP did not cause or contribute to his death. When it comes to what did kill him, forensic pathologist Sean Latham testified that Sanderson died of a cocaine overdose. The inquest continues tomorrow with the officers who arrested Sanderson and paramedics who treated him taking the stand. In Winnipeg, Ryan Manikiewicz, who is accused of killing 5 people in 3 locations in southern Manitoba earlier this month, appeared in court via video conference on Monday morning. Manikiewicz's lawyer requested a mental health assessment to see if he's fit to stand trial. The assessment has to be completed within the next month. He's charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of his common-law partner, their 3 children, and her niece. None of the allegations have been proven in court. To Alberta, where Roger Bido, who was convicted of manslaughter in 2022 and sentenced to 10 years in prison, has been granted unescorted temporary absences by the Parole Board of Canada. According to the Parole Board, he has a low chance of reoffending. Roger Bido was convicted for the role he played in the incident where his son Anthony shot and killed Métis hunters Jacob Sanson and Maurice Cardinal in 2020. Bido is still serving a life sentence for second-degree murder in connection with the killing. Both are appealing their convictions. High grocery prices in northern Canada came up during question period in Ottawa Tuesday. APTN Investigates and CBC Fifth Estate co-production that aired this past weekend finds that not all of the Nutrition North subsidy is finding its way into the pockets of northern grocery buyers, but is instead being used to increase the high profits of grocery chains like the Northern Store. The NDP's Laurie Idloot asked Northern Affairs Minister Dan Vandel what the Trudeau government plans to do about the problem.
The honourable member from Nunavut.
People in the north are paying enormous amounts for food as the CEOs of the grocery chains make millions of dollars. Nunavut have said for years that Nutrition North is not working and this government is ignoring them. Nutrition North is keeping many Northerners in poverty as the subsidy is going to CEO profits, not lowering food prices. Why is this minister padding the pockets of rich CEOs instead of helping Northerners afford their groceries?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister for Northern Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for that very important question. We know that food prices in the north are too high. Affordability is a real issue in the north. Our government is absolutely committed to ensuring that 100% of the Nutrition North retail subsidy is passed on directly to Northerners. We have worked and we will continue to work with territorial governments, with Indigenous partners, and with people who live in the North and the Arctic to bring prices down. There's a lot of work to do. We are committed to getting it done.
Hear, hear.
The Nunavut government is making progress on its Nunavut 3000 goals. That's according to this year's territorial budget address, which highlighted the progress on the territory's housing goals. According to Nunavut's finance minister, Lauren Kusagak, who spoke to reporters prior to the budget address, the Nunavut government is well underway in terms of reaching its goal of building 3,000 housing units by the end of the decade, with 1,000 total units expected to be finished by the end of 2025. Over $82 million has been earmarked for housing. in addition to additional infrastructure funding, some of which is expected to support housing development. The pace of construction, according to the minister, will pick up even further as additional underlying infrastructure gets completed.
And I think you'll see that government has been working very hard as a team to take infrastructure issues such as housing and working with community government services and other agencies and creating little committees to see if we can build houses so that if we're building 200 houses this year within our budget, then to make sure that we could reach that goal and make sure that there are 200 lots to put them on.
Indigenous youth in Winnipeg have released a new report calling for changes to how they're treated in the healthcare system.
Many of the young people identified that they felt discriminated against from the moment they walked into a healthcare space. 26 young Indigenous people took part in the roundtable. The discussions led to the report that found a deep mistrust of the system caused Indigenous youth to put off seeking care until health problems become emergencies. The report calls for a so-called anti-style approach, where systems and workers are focused on kinship and culturally safe care can be provided. The Crown Indigenous Affairs Minister pledged his continued support for the return of ancestral lands to Indigenous communities. Minister Gary Anandasangari made his comments as part of an interview on Monday's episode of Nouvelle Nationale, APTN's French language news program. He was responding to a question about whether he shared the beliefs of his predecessor, Mark Miller. During his time as Crown Indigenous Affairs Minister, Miller said returning lands was a priority for his office. Anandasangari said he and his office strive to hold to the same principles.
We are in traditional lands that are occupied by many nations in North America, particularly in Canada and even in Quebec. So the lands actually do not belong to Canada per se. Much of the land is not covered by treaty, and even some of them that are, there's many lands that are in dispute. So giving land back is not a benevolent move by Canada. It is rightfully returning somebody else's possession. So that is Mark Miller's thinking. I've subscribed to that thinking. I do believe that land back is an important aspect of reconciliation. Land is at the core of one's identity. Land, language, culture are so important to one's identity, and I think for us to reconcile with Indigenous people.
A rookie MLA in Alberta is taking a run for that province's NDP leadership. We'll speak with Jody Stonehouse after the break. Welcome back. Jody Stonehouse has officially announced that she is running for leadership of the Alberta NDP. Current leader and former Premier Rachel Notley is stepping down after almost a decade. Jody Stonehouse joins us now from her home in Edmonton. Jody, thanks for being with us today. Let's start with your decision to run and why you wanted to run for the Alberta NDP leadership.
Tanze Dennis, thanks for having me. And I actually had just convinced myself not to run and to relax, just be an MLA, enjoy life a little. And when Rachel Notley stepped down, I was on vacation with my parents and my phone was ringing off the hook. Texts were coming in, and it was from elders across the province. And with messages, "It's time, my girl, you've been preparing for this," all kinds of kind encouragement. And my folks were like, "Maybe you need to rethink this." And so I went to ceremony, and as we do in our way, the elders said, "You must do this," so here I am.
Well, I hope you had a good data plan while you were on vacation there. You made the announcement on Saturday at the Lethbridge International Peace Powwow. Why did you choose that event for the announcement?
So again, I actually didn't choose that event. It was in ceremony. I was up north in Frog Lake, and an elder had said to me, the best place for you to do this will be at this gathering. It's going to address where the water crisis is actually going to be happening. And so I take the elders' consult and deliberation to heart and brought it to my team. And they also thought it was a great idea, and so that's where we launched from. And while I was down there, I got to spend time with folks in High River, and you know, plenty of people are very, very concerned in southern Alberta about the drought that we're headed into.
Well, you are a rookie MLA running against 3 other women, 2 of whom were cabinet ministers in Rachel Notley's government. What would you say sets you apart from them?
Well, first I would say rookies score goals and win games. And secondly, I would say what sets me apart is my lived experience and being on the ground with community, the work I've done, and you know, coming from this worldview around collaboration and working together. It's time that we do things a little differently in government, because what is happening is not working. We have more deaths than ever before. We have higher addiction rates than ever before. We've had higher profits out of our province, and yet people are dying. The hospitals are crumbling. Healthcare is a mess. So the infrastructure was not invested in, and it's time to have a different approach, a new style, and that's what I'm bringing to the table: collaboration.
You're touching on some key issues there, no doubt, but what do you see as some of the priorities for yourself in this leadership race?
Well, Dennis, we have to really focus on our climate change response. We have to address the forest fires. Last spring, leaders were telling us that they were putting out the fires with their volunteers in their communities as best they could, and they were waiting for the province to show up, and the province never came. So that means we don't have a plan here in the province. We need plans to get ranchers' herds out of the fields on time and properly and safely. We need to make sure if there's another incident like the Fort McMurray, hopefully there is not, but if there is, that we have plans across the province. And how are we going to manage forest fires without water? So there's all of these strategies that need to be implemented immediately. Irrigation, I mean, these are very, very serious issues that the rest of the world has been planning, navigating, implementing renewable energy. Part of the platform is also diversifying our economy. How do we take climate change and spin that into a climate economic response? So how do we create jobs for people? How do we ensure that we're able to feed our families, keep the heat on, lights on? Because in Alberta right now, rent has doubled. We're in a serious crisis, affordability crisis, and families are hurting. So the platform is water, climate, economics.
Just very quickly here, Jody, you know, as somebody who's Korean Mohawk, you were on the ground here the night that Wab Kinew was elected Premier of Manitoba. Do you think Canada's reached a turning point with more Indigenous politicians becoming elected?
I think Canada, since the Truth and Reconciliation Commission is recognizing and seeing the value of Indigenous ways of knowing and being, and that our governance styles and our laws and principles have a lot to be valued in governing. You know, our relationships to the land, to the water, and to each other are fundamental in the way that we govern, and that's what's going to help support us in getting out of these crises. It's our relationships.
Jody, we'll leave it there, but thanks for joining us. Best of luck to you over the next few months here.
Excellent. Thank you, Dennis. Take care.
It was time to get their thinking caps on as young scientists from northern Manitoba were showing off their projects in Winnipeg last week. APTN Sav Jones talked with some of them and learned a thing or two in the process. Here they are with more on that story.
Have you ever wondered how video games affect schoolwork? Or which drink is best for staying hydrated while playing sports? Well, the students of Frontier School Division in Manitoba found the answers to that and more, all while having a blast.
I just think science is really cool. I love science.
Grades 4 to 12 students from 17 schools in northern Manitoba showed off their research skills at the school division's 10th annual science fair. Taking place in Winnipeg at the Manitoba Museum, they're hoping to win one of 3 spots to represent Frontier School Division at the Canada-wide Science Fair in Ottawa this May. Stanley Baker is a seasoned science fair participant and won first place in the high school category last year.
There was, I think, 11 or 12 projects, and I won first for the high school project. I got a glass trophy, first place, and I really enjoyed it. It was a very fun experience at the science fair, and I'm gonna enjoy it this year too. It looks very fun this year.
Caitlin Dion and Shaylee Baker's project on colorblindness taught them the power of teamwork. Caitlin wrote all of the reports and Shaylee made the eye-catching artwork. Their determination earned them a chance to compete against the other schools.
We were just doing this just for fun until we found out that we won. Like, we never thought we were going to win until they called our names, and we were very surprised about it.
Frontier School Division's Chief Superintendent, Reg Clausen, says what surprised him most about this year's fair was the creativity.
There's lots on water here. There's one really interesting project on the menstrual cycle and the research that those students have done. And so I just say, my goodness, what creative thinking for young people to be thinking like that, and then wanting to find answers, and then wanting to use those answers to explain what's going on in our world around us.
For pals Kylie Dysart and Claire Linklater, focusing on how their community of South Indian Lake has been impacted by flooding brought on by Manitoba hydro projects was important.
We wanted to bring awareness to it because it's we want a better lake for our town.
For the many generations to come, and we want people to know the many generations what happened to our lakes a long time
what
ago.
Happened before it.
Yes,
because a lot of people don't know about the flood, and they don't know about how
the back history of it.
Yeah,
and how it polluted the fish, people's living life, the islands that have been washed away completely.
After learning so much and even doing some testing myself, this reporter can't wait to see what these brilliant minds will teach us all at next year's event. Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Really cool projects. Congrats to all involved there. Well, it was a good day for a nice Cube fan from northern BC. You'll want to stick around for that story after the break. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. This pine grosbeak is hanging out in the backyard of our viewer Susie Moberly's. Susie tells us a number of them gather each morning for breakfast. Thanks for sharing, Susie. You can send your pictures to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, sunny and +4 in Halifax, 10 above in Fredericton, -23 in Kuujjuaq, snow, and 11 below in Nain. 13 above in Montreal, +8 in Val-d'Or, 11 above for Sault Ste. Marie, -10 in North Bay, -11 with snow in Thunder Bay, 17 below in Sioux Lookout, -22 for God's Lake, 19 below and sunny in Norway House. -18 in Winnipeg and Brandon, 15 below for Dauphin. -11 in Regina, 14 below in Saskatoon. -14 in Meadow Lake, -16 in Buffalo Narrows. In northern Alberta, -15 with snow and high level, flurries at 18 below in Grand Prairie. -7 in Edmonton, +6 for Lethbridge. 9 above in Vancouver, 11 above in Kamloops. -3 with snow in Prince George, 4 below, and flurries in Smithers. -27 in Old Crow, snow, and -14 in Whitehorse. -21 in Yellowknife, 23 below for Norman Wells. Minus 26 in Sax Harbor and Colville Lake. 32 below in Chesterfield and Arviette. Minus 33 in Whale Cove. Minus 35 in Resolute. 31 below in Joe Haven. Dean Janvier has worn many hats over the years. He's a former band counselor from the Cold Lake First Nations and a former CEO and president of the Siksika group of companies. For a short period of time, he was even a consultant on the great show Blackstone. Now, Deloitte Canada, Janvier gets to bring all of his expertise under one roof to help Indigenous peoples. Tonight on Face to Face, he tells us about the importance of economic development for First Nations.
But I do believe that, creating opportunities for economic growth where nations have resources that they own and control themselves without having to answer to government bodies, without having to rely exclusively on transfer payments, this strengthens nations and it gives them confidence. And when individuals in those nations can start businesses or earn a paycheck that's independent of the Band Council, there again, you're creating another layer of a middle class that's independent and can have their own thoughts and ambitions as well.
And you can catch our interview with Dean in just a few minutes from now. A First Nations beater from northern British Columbia says she recently received the thrill of a lifetime after the rapper Ice Cube wore a medallion she made on stage.
Thank you for whoever made this.
Tall 10 artist Carmen Dennis from Dease Lake, British Columbia designed the Ice Cube inspired medallion. Along with family and friends, she attended the rapper's show in Abbotsford on February 20th. Ice Cube is best known, of course, for his work with NWA and for songs Straight Outta Compton and It Was a Good Day, as well as film roles like Boys in the Hood. Dennis says her daughter and niece, with help from other fans in the crowd, were able to throw the medallion on stage where it caught the rapper's attention.
Me and my friend, we stopped what we were doing because we were dancing and singing, and then we're like, oh my God, like he's picking it up. And we started jumping, like we weren't even aware of anybody around us. We were just so happy. And when he put it over his neck and he started singing Today Was a Good Day, that was just the best.
Awesome stuff. Earlier today, Ice Cube made a social media post thanking Dennis for the medallion, and he said he would cherish the piece forever. A lot of questions about that item, how long it took her to make and everything. We should get her on again. So amazing. A good day indeed. That is all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Tuesday. For news anytime, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. Do stick around, and all new episode of Face to Face is coming up in about 90 seconds time. Marcy McGuitch, thanks for being with us. Have a great night.